The end of the March international break means one thing, and that is the beginning of the business end of the Bundesliga season. So with the relegation battle, the only thing really worth fighting for still, it's time to look at the chances of each team that could get relegated. So we'll work from top to bottom, and realistically we could include basically the whole bottom half of the table, including some teams that snuck into the top half. But I'll get to them right at the end, but I don't think they're in trouble of getting relegated. Actually, we'll start with Heidenheim, who are 18th, and there is a clear gap between them and safety. I think it's safe to say they are relegated. I know it, you know it, and they probably know it too. It's been a good ride for Frank Schmidt and his side in the Bundesliga, from their dramatic promotion to qualifying for Europe in their first season, and then the dramatic survival last season too in the relegation playoff against Wolfsburg. But if we're being completely honest, considering the stature, size and the resources of the club, they have absolutely outstayed their welcome. They should have got relegated in the first season, but they've done well to stay here for 3 years, and it will do them, as long as they don't do what happens to some Bundesliga teams, is when they get relegated and they're fighting for a second relegation in a row. I mean, it happened to Arminia Bielefeld. As long as that doesn't happen, then they should be fine. And with the quality they have at their disposal and how they've consistently been recruiting like a team that's in the fighting to stay up, be fighting at the top half of this fight to Bundesliga, then I imagine. Then the biggest shock, and would be the biggest surprise if they actually do end up getting relegated, is Wolfsburg. They're obviously the former Bundesliga winners in 2009. They have actually come close to relegation beforehand, but they won the relegation playoff in 2017-18 when they beat Holstein Kiel 4-1. This time they are genuinely shit. They started the season off with Paul Simonis. They replaced him with Daniel Bauer, initially interim, but gave Bauer the job permanently. Then they replaced Bauer with Dieter Hecking, who returned, who had led the club to the DFB Pokal in 2015, and they've actually gotten worse. Like from a eye test and everything, they've regressed. And what hasn't helped them in their cause is losing a relegation 6-pointer against Werder Bremen just before the international break. And this could end up proving terminal to their chances, because if anything, those are the games that you have to win against the teams that are around you, to stop the teams around you creating gaps. And this is Wolfsburg's problem, is they haven't won these games, they've lost them, and that's allowed the teams around them to either leapfrog them or open up gaps or extend gaps, or they're just coasting. And I've gone on and on about the money that they've spent over the years and how it has all more or less been a waste. We can see that. But parts of me think they're too good to go down, and the quality in their team compared to others will prevail eventually. They have the likes of Christian Eriksen, then you've got Mohamed Amoura, Lovro Mayer. They're all good enough, but they look like a team that are lacking in confidence, and if you have played Football Manager, you know the effects that this has. Add to this, they have quite a difficult run of fixtures to end the season. The only teams in the top half they do not play are Union Berlin, Borussia Mönchengladbach and St. Pauli on the final day. And that game against St. Pauli, who we'll get to, it's looking more and more likely that this will be a relegation, like it will decide who goes in the relegation playoff or who gets automatically relegated. And with the way things are going, and the longer Wolfsburg go without a win, they will be the one that gets automatically relegated. Now, St. Pauli, on the Hamburg side, they did start great, and then they sunk very quickly. They have somewhat turned a corner in recent weeks, and that helped give themselves a chance at survival. But I think the relegation playoff is their season. So basically where they are now, they do have an easier run of fixtures, and the fate is more in their hands because they do play a bunch of teams around them. But I think what they have shown in the last few weeks is not enough in the grand scheme of things. Again, I think quality is a bit of an issue for St. Pauli. Like individual quality, if you look at the team and you look at each individual player and you think, okay, he could potentially be in the Bundesliga next season. One of the only ones is Joel Fujita. The rest, you could see them go back down because most of them came up with St. Pauli, but most of them you could see them go back down and be like, okay, fair enough. So I think with St. Pauli, their best chance is the relegation playoff, which, to be fair, depending who they're up against, they could win. Now, the team that have actually sunk towards relegation in recent weeks are Cologne. Just before the international break, they drew with Borussia Mönchengladbach in the Rhine derby, and they ultimately sacked head coach Lukas Kwasniok after that. He has been replaced by his assistant. But if things continue to go bad, Cologne are prepared to bring in a firefighter head coach just in case. They're on a run of 2 wins in 5 months, which, as I said previously, it's an impressive stat to actually have achieved that. They have an okay run of games, and again, like the lack of quality below them should be enough to save them. I also think Cologne do have a decent bit of quality, like the Saido Mala, for example, and they've just, in some ways, just got a bit unlucky. Granted, there's games where they should have played better, but they've also just got a bit unlucky, which may have cost them a point or two. But I think for them, in worst case scenarios, they'd play in the relegation playoff, but I think they should win that because the players they have are good enough, and they've shown that in the first half of the season too. So they just have to find themselves again. And then we've got one of the most inconsistent teams this season, that's Werder Bremen. They have turned it around partially under Daniel Thion. They have a decent 4-point gap to 16th, but they have a slightly harder run of fixtures to end the season. They do play Stuttgart, Hoffenheim, Dortmund in their last 4 games, and then this weekend they play RB Leipzig. However, what has worked in their favour is they've won the games they needed to win, like against Wolfsburg, like against Heidenheim. And so when they play their fellow relegation rivals in the other few games, and if they win those, then they should probably do enough to stay up. I'm also of the opinion that they probably could have done this under Horst Steffen too. Like as we've seen with Steffen, at some points Bremen were just ridiculously unlucky. Like right at the beginning of the season, there were so many injuries, but when the players returned and it clicked, it started working again. And then they had a difficult run of fixtures, and then they sacked Steffen. So I think, granted, like if they get 3 points from Stuttgart, Hoffenheim, Dortmund, then fair enough. I will take back all I said. Then the team above Werder Bremen is Borussia Mönchengladbach. For the same reasons, I think they've done enough, and because of the lack of quality below them, they probably won't get relegated. They play Leipzig, Dortmund and Hoffenheim in the top half. The rest are pretty winnable games. For Gladbach, it's just get to the end of the season, move on to the next one. This is another forgettable one. I think it would be fair to get to the end of the season and reconsider the future of Eugen Polanski, because obviously he started off well and it saved Gladbach from what was a dire situation, but they've kind of resulted back to normal in recent weeks, and the new manager bounce is more or less worn off. And because of that, I think like you use the final few games of the season, and if it's not good enough, then I think it would make sense to get rid of him and just start afresh, as in bring in a new head coach in the summer and have them plenty of time to work on the team and stuff, whatever, because it's with the rights money, whatever, there will be a big sort of overhaul. Well, I hope there will be. If there isn't, then what the hell are they doing? And this would just give Gladbach a fair chance just to completely reset something which they haven't been able to do for a very long time, and just try again. Start afresh. Obviously, Ruben Schreuder's now in charge instead of Roland Wirkus, and you do all of this. You try again and just see what happens. But obviously, that depends how Polanski does in his final few games. He may win all of them. Okay, then he should stay in charge. But if Gladbach are genuinely horrible and basically escape relegation for the skin of their teeth, then Polanski should probably go in the summer. Now, on the same points as Gladbach, but just above them is Hamburg. Again, like Gladbach, I think they'll stay up. They've done it well, and with what is a Bundesliga rookie head coach as well, I think it's fair enough. I mean, other teams have had Bundesliga rookie head coaches this season, and it hasn't really worked. While Hamburg stuck with Polzin when they got promoted, and it has been successful. And it's a good season to build upon, especially after you've been away for 7 years. Obviously, their standout players have been Luka Vuskovic and Fabio Vieira, but what they must improve on especially in this latter half of the season and heading into next year, is goal scoring. I mean, Vuskovic is one of your top goal scorers, and that is a bit of a problem when a centre-back is one of your top goal scorers. I mean, they have the likes of Robert Glatzel, Ryan Philippe, Ransford, Königsdorfer, and none of them are being consistent enough in front of goal. If Hamburg want to use this season as a stepping stone so they now and become a more established team in the Bundesliga, then they need to improve at their goal scoring. And then the final team is Mainz. Since Urs Fischer replaced Bo Henriksen, they've only lost twice, which is pretty impressive. And the fact is they've also dealt with the Conference League okay as well. They're in the quarter-final now, they play Strasbourg. And what's also helped is players are starting to step up, which were underperforming at the beginning of the season, like Paul Nabel. And overall, like Mainz will not get relegated. With the trend and form they're on, they're not going to get relegated at all. They've fully pulled away and they should be fine. And I imagine after this weekend, if they get a positive result, they should be fine. While Augsburg and Union Berlin, who are both just above Mainz, they're safe. Unless they have some sort of generational fall-off, which I don't even think is possible to achieve, then they're not getting relegated either. So obviously, it does return the Bundesliga this weekend. So that the teams that I've just mentioned that are in this relegation fight. So Heidenheim play Borussia Mönchengladbach, Wolfsburg play Bayer Leverkusen, St. Pauli play Union Berlin, Cologne play Eintracht Frankfurt, Werder Bremen play Leipzig, and Hamburg play Augsburg. How they go from there, who knows? But let me know what you think. Let me know who you think could get relegated, if anyone could surprise you and get relegated too. The next video, because I'm now prepared, will be on Nazi Germany and football. But let me know what you think on who your bottom three will be, and